Okay, here I am just about to edit this small spring flower, a crocus. So I wanted to just show you how I quickly did this shoot as well as the edit. So I just will open up my bridge where I keep all my files organized, but this is the image that we're looking at. And my quick edit will be trying to darken up this back area here where I placed a spacer card or a black card to separate these flowers from the background. So I'll slowly double click that and it opens up in Camera Raw. Now this is where I check out my histogram and see how my image looks shot. It seems pretty good all in the middle there, but I might adjust slowly my exposure and some of my highlights to control the water drops. So I press Alt and it turns the screen black and you can see a small white dot, and that is the highest of the highlights. So where there's no information, and that seems to be right at the top of that little flower. So I'll take my highlight slider and I'll drag this all the way down to the left, and that helps control all those blown out areas. Once again, I'll press Alt to have a good look, and I can see that there's just that little spot there, but it's not a whole lot of information that's being lost. So now I'll be looking at this black area here, so I'll go up to my shadow slider and drag this down because I wanted to turn it black or darker. Once again, I'll adjust my exposure because it changes things quite a bit when you're moving these sliders around, but I'm pretty happy with the overall flower. I'll take my white slider and slowly move that up to the right just to get a little bit more brightness in the highlights, but I'll push Alt to make sure I'm not overexposing, but slowly you'll see these blue dots appear on that screen, and you can see where that is on the image, right in those water drops, and slowly that's overexposing and getting to that point where that is probably where I'll want to stop. I'll grab my black slider, and when I move this to the left, it basically turns things darker. So all the blacks are moving dark. I'll press Alt and you can see in the top left hand corner where information is starting to be lost. But it's not all that important to the whole overall image, but the more I drag this down, the more impact the flowers seem to gain. But you play around with these until you're happy, and we'll leave that about in that area there. And I'll take this texture sliders and I'll move them around just wherever I want to see them. Clarity, just jam it every which way because I just want to see what happens when I'm moving these around. Usually I don't go over 10, most likely around 3 to 5 in these areas here, and I'll drag that back down a bit. Same with the dehaze. Oh, that's kind of a neat function, and that might be an artistic thing that comes out of it, but we're really just looking for the basics of a pure flower shot. So I'll drag these around and I'll find a nice happy area where it seems pleasing to me, usually under 10. Vibrance and saturation, I'll move these around a little bit, but these flowers seem to carry a lot of color impact already, so I don't usually look for too much information coming out of these, but once again keep it down to under 10 to keep things natural looking. I'll move to my camera calibration and I'll hit remove chromatic aberrations because I don't want any haloing around these water drops. You can go to hue and saturation. Once again, you can play around with these if you feel like, oh, it's not quite the look I'm looking for, but you can see how dramatic these blues can change. But today we're staying with blue. And once this is all done, I'll open the image and it'll prop it up into Photoshop. So now that this is opened up in Photoshop, I'll have a quick look around the actual image and see what I like about it and what I don't like about it. There's a couple areas that are distracting from the main subject, so they need to go. I want to get rid of these, so I'll go back to my base layer, and I'll duplicate that a couple times by hitting Command J, and we'll go from there. By hitting Command J, it duplicates the layer a couple times for me. So with this, now I want to basically go to my brush palettes and stuff like that. So spot healing, clone stamp, that kind of stuff is what I use to remove subject matter in the image. But with the spot healing brush, that's usually the go-to for me for removing this kind of thing. So you can see in this little demo that they have, you just basically click and just draw over the area that you want removed. By hitting your square bracket key, you enlarge your brush size, so therefore you can cover the whole item that you want removed. So by clicking and holding your mouse down, it will basically just cover that up and remove it from the file. You have to go over this a couple times. Sometimes it doesn't do a very good job of the first sweep, but I noticed a little bit of information that was still distracting, so I'll zoom in. By hitting Command plus a couple of times, this will enlarge my image for a better look. And I can see that I didn't like what happened there, so I'll just drag those down to the trash from my history, and it reinstates what was there. So since the brush wasn't working, I can go to my clone stamp tool, and I'll select that, and now I can just basically push Alt. It'll select a chunk of the image that I've decided, and I can paint directly over top of the flower bit, the distracting part, or whatever you were trying to remove or paint over. So it's just like a paintbrush of taking this area here and placing it over top of what you want to get rid of. And click down on your mouse and paint away. I'll select some other areas and just keep doing this over and over until it's removed what I feel is distracting. You can see that that's done a fairly decent job, and I'll go back to my brush tool to blend this in a little bit better. My patch tool. Grab the patch selector by holding that down on the mouse. You can draw a circle around wherever you want removed and drag it to an area that you feel is more suited to the actual image. And as you can see, it slowly just blends that away and it's gone. Now I'm looking up in the top left hand corner here. That's somewhat distracting still to me, but for now I think I'll leave it until I really have a good look at the rest of this image. I'll duplicate that one more time for my sharpening. So I'm up here in select, and I'll put sharpen, unsharp mask. It'll pull up a file, and with that little rectangle I can click on the area that I want to make sure is not getting any halos or artifacts from sharpening or over sharpening. And I can move that around and have a little preview look at it, but I think I'll increase the image size by hitting Command plus, and that brings up the image at 100%. And that way I can view this better to make sure that I'm not over sharpening, because as soon as you do that you start getting halos. But this looks good, so I hit OK. I'll go another quick look at all that. Command minus to shrink back down, and I'm still not happy with that, so I will duplicate that letter by Command J one more time, take my patch tool, circle that and drag that into a black area to clone it basically, and that removes that distraction. A couple times, and that looks pretty good, it's gone. And that pretty much does what I think would be good enough for this image. Pretty happy with the end result, and I'd save that eventually, so I'll head up to File, Save, or I could possibly crop it down just to get a little bit more focus directly into that image, but I think it's fine, nothing too serious. Cancel that back out. Yeah, File, Save, Save As, and it'll save it back into the file that it originated from as a Photoshop file, so you could always go back and re-edit it. that's pretty much the whole deal for me. Hit save, and that's how it looks. Might give you a bit of a before and after here. So as that's saved in, you can see on the right hand side of the screen go back into my raw here and reset that to its original settings. You can see how much more impact I feel that it draws to the flower and gets rid of the distractions, as we so to speak. There it is. Before and after. Before, got rid of all that and darkened up the background. Brings a lot more impact just to the bells of those flowers and the water drops. And that's about it. That's the way I do it.